I am here with Dr. Teresa Cullen, and we are going to get into living with obesity and how we can advocate for ourselves and for others. Welcome to Navigating Obesity with Dr. D. So, I would love for you to tell me, when was the first time that you had an awareness that weight was impacting your life?
Well, I mean, it's kind of an interesting story because I think it's at kindergarten when you do like the presidential fitness thing, where you have to, stretch beyond your toes and all that thing. And at that time in kindergarten, I weighed 125 pounds, which is a weight of an adult woman. And so they called my parents in and they said, this is pretty serious. And so I was in my first hospital supervised weight program at, what would that be, 5 or 6? And I did it twice. It was at Kenosha Memorial Hospital in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And actually, I still have the book. I have to say it is really well done, like in a very cheesy 70s kind of way. Because it was not about necessarily about obesity. It was about self-respect, body image, goal setting. And I remember, like, this is so cheesy, but I remember what my goal was. There was this jungle gym at our school that the only way you could get on top of it is that you had to squeeze through a square, like you had to loop your legs around and you had to squeeze your way back to get to the top of it. Are you with me?
I'm
Right?
following.
Yeah, so my goal was, as I worked it, so that my goal was to work to the point at which I could fit in the square and get on top of the jungle gym with the rest of the kids. And so that was like my big lofty grade 1 goal. But then, my mom was always trying to lose weight. So I went to Tops with her. And, gosh, by the time I was in grad school, I had been in Weight Watchers like 17 times. And I remember this one time in grad school, I went and they were like, it was a new membership, and they're like, oh, we're so happy you're here. And I said, 15th time's the charm. And then they like wouldn't talk to me and set me in a corner.
Oh
And
no. Let's talk about, you have tried many different approaches. What in your world has helped you with your health the most?
I think what I learned through the bariatric surgery process that has still stuck with me is that it can't be all about good and bad food. That, like, it was my birthday this week. My husband got me a cake. I had a slice of cake. I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm not going to kick myself about it. I mean, it's not about like this or that. Like, and I think that has actually created a more healthy relationship with food than, and I think that as far as like for overall health, that's just a lot better. Because I remember as a kid, I got in trouble as a high school kid, like high school, maybe like middle school kid, because my mom was letting me make my own lunch. She was trying to get me to have some ownership in food and stuff. And so I had decided that my lunch would be 3 cups of air popcorn and 2 hard-boiled eggs. And that all I was eating was hard-boiled eggs and popcorn. And then I got busted after about a week or two. And, my mom was like, that's not healthy. Like, you can't eat that. And I'm like, well, there's only so many calories in this, and I needed protein. So those were the two things. And, the only reason I got busted is because the eggs were disappearing too quickly. Right. But as a whole, like, I mean, like, like I kind of had, a weird kind of disordered food relationship with a lot of things. And so I think, now, if I want a piece of chocolate, I have a piece of chocolate and then I can go away with it. And I think that that's a much more healthy, both mentally and physically healthy kind of situation.
Well, and that actually is music to my ears to hear you say that it's not all or nothing, not good or bad, because food is not moral. We want people to kind of look at, like, when you fill up your tank for your car, there's
Yeah.
3 different types of gas you can purchase, and we do not judge ourselves about which thing that we're putting into the car. It's usually a financial decision that impacts
Yeah.
our decision making. That is a message that I would love for people to really hear, that one slice of cake or one bit of chocolate is not going to disrupt the majority of the effort that you're taking to care for yourself. And something that I think gets lost on a lot of people is that about 80% of the disease has nothing to do with diet, exercise. And that can be genetics, it can be life circumstance, it can be where you are in your aging process. There's so many factors that play into that. And I just wanted to touch base about, you were saying you lost a substantial amount of weight with
Yeah.
surgery, and then you couldn't, I don't know if that 185 was when you were getting so sick. Was that when you lost
I
185?
mean, I was exercising like 7 or 8 hours a day. I was doing like 3 hours before work or 3 hours after work. I was also getting so very sick. So it was not a healthy, and I mean, you see pictures of it and I'm like, ooh, that's a 14. Like, oh my God, that dress was a 14. But I don't have much hair on my head. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
And so
so yeah.
that is really key. Is I talk a lot to people about, I had someone who had a horrible, like, had to have a colon resection and was not absorbing their, calories, and they got so sick, near death experience, and they were down at their goal weight. And I'm like, but that's not what your body was in agreement with, And so when you're strong and healthy, that's what we want to look at. Like, what can you achieve in a strong and healthy way, not when you're on the verge of that's extreme, what you were just saying, 17.
Yeah, yeah. Experience. And so that's the other thing is like I have friends who've, had weight loss surgery or on a GLP-1, and like someone will offer them something like, "Oh, I made my grandmother's recipe," and they won't eat it. And I'm like, like food is a lot more about like experiencing things and learning about other people from their relationship with food. And so like I always, try when I go to a new town, like I'm going to Denver next week, and I'm already like, oh, like can I get something, can I get Ethiopian food, or can I get something that I can experience that's different? And every different culture has different value in like as far as food and such.
Thoughts about what would you wish people to understand about obesity that they usually get wrong?
Oh gosh. I mean, I think, the whole willpower thing is crazy. I was remembering that a friend was commenting on someone else's weight. And I said to them, you don't really know what her struggle is. Like, you don't know, like, what they've been through. You don't know what they've already tried. And they said, oh, I wasn't offending you. I mean, you try. I don't think that person does. And I'm like, how do you know that? Like, how do you know that? Because like, and I think, a lot of times, I think that a lot of things with like, especially like diet and exercise, it's really a scary entry point because people feel really judged. Like I'll use like flying on a plane. I recently had to emergency fly to visit my mom. And so like I bought a ticket at the last minute and I was like, oh, I'm in a middle seat. Like, oh, this is going to go badly, kind of situation. And I had so much anxiety over it. And I don't think that people realize how anxious it is. And, I've had people that have thrown a little fit because they had to sit next to me. I've had people, and it's just like, dude, I'm just trying to exist and I'm trying to get to where I'm going. And it's nothing about you, man. Like, you just need to chill out, and of course, like, I've bought first class tickets and I've, used the soon to be leaving Southwest policy in order to get an extra seat. And I've done all those things. And that takes a lot of the anxiety off. But, I also know that, I've done a lot of travel in Europe. I've gone to Turkey, I've gone to China, and I'm the only person that looks like me there. And I think to myself, why aren't other people realizing that they can also live their lives? And so, I mean, one of the things I realize, especially too, like when I travel, and I'm going a little tangent, but when I travel is I realize like when someone sees me, there might be someone else who goes, I didn't really think I could go, like see my pictures on Instagram when I was in Italy. I didn't think I could do that, or I didn't think they'd be welcoming to me, or I didn't think, like kind of thing. And I think everybody has a right to travel. Everyone has a right to see the world. Doesn't matter if you're thin or fat or anything. And I, a lot of that anxiety, like I feel that anxiety, I try to push through it, but with lots of things in life. In fact, I remember had a really serious accident about 4.5 years ago, and I had to have my back was broken. I had to have neurosurgery, and I remember, and I'm on the good drugs, so this is my memory of it, And the doctor came in and they explained it was like a resident. It was resident, the highest level before you become a doctor. Okay, so it was like a resident. They came in, they had to explain to me what was going on, and they're like, if you broke it this way, it might just heal. You broke it this way, we can put you in a brace and it would heal. but you broke it this way, and so you have to have neurosurgery. And I remember I felt the need at that moment, and I said to her, I said, listen, I'm a large woman, and this is a really complicated surgery. And my question for you is, do you feel confident you can be successful for me?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, we're a trauma center. Short, fat, tall, thin, doesn't matter. Like we just we'll get it done. And I was like, okay, good. But like, like people I don't think realize, you ask what would I say about you wish people would realize. They don't realize that every time that you come to an interaction with a doctor, every time you come to interaction with, a seat that you don't know or a waiting room that you don't know, you're asking yourself, am I going to be okay there?
Mm-hmm.
And you try to plan early and go early, but like all that does is ramps up that anxiety. And some people can push through the anxiety and some people can't. And so if you have a friend who maybe has obesity and is canceling on you a lot, have you thought about how you can make them feel more comfortable? Crazy thing, when I started this new job that I'm on, I had to go through, I'm a supervisor, so I had to go through training to create a welcoming, inclusive workspace. And they had, in part of the training video, thinking about the seating areas in your office to make sure that people could be comfortable. And I got a little choked up because I've worked lots of different places and no one has ever shown any concern about me being comfortable in that space. And I thought it spoke well of my new employer. I thought it spoke well of the training that they had chosen to give us. And it also has just, it was a really great way to start a place and making me feel welcome.
Curious if you could comment on how you feel living with obesity has shaped how you see yourself and how others have treated you.
Well, okay. So, immediately what comes to mind is the conversation I had with my bariatric surgeon on my consultation appointment, because I had interviewed multiple surgeons. I'm a PhD, I'm a researcher. Like, it wasn't an easy decision. I made sure who I kind of, gelled with. And I remember I said to her, I don't want the Flowers for Algernon experience. And if you don't know that book, it's a book about a person with a mental disability, and they're given a drug. So it's written as like a personal journal, and then they're given a drug. They start out, you can hardly read it because the words are so messed up. And then they're given a drug that helps with their intellect, and then they get so high up in the middle of the book, you can hardly read it because it's such a huge vocabulary, and then it goes back down because it starts to slip away. And I remember I said to her, I said, I do not want the Flowers for Algernon experience. If I'm going to lose this weight, I want to lose this weight. And like, I just don't want to know that people will treat me differently because this is the experience I've always had. Mm-hmm. And I remember she said very clearly to me, I can't promise you that, and also even said like the really smart people are the ones that really mess this up usually, which, it's probably fair. Cause like I can find my brain around lots of things I shouldn't be doing. Anyway, but that's exactly the experience I had. And, I lost the weight. I started to get invited. I was featured in an ad campaign for my job. I was, opportunities were coming to me. Now, part of that could have been that I was standing with more confidence, that I was, like I was feeling good about myself and I was putting that out there. But part of it wasn't. Part of it was that I had an acceptable view, a size 14 woman is maybe a little bit on the larger side and, but not like out of the range. But I was going to say, I got all these opportunities. People treated me differently. And then once I started to gain the weight back, it went back to the way I'd been treated before. And that was really, really hard to feel. And there's a part of me that wishes I wouldn't have had that. But there's also a part of me that knows that because I had that now it makes me more sensitive to how other people are experiencing it, and I try to stay clear of someone who's just had bariatric surgery or a lot of success on GLP-1 because I want to allow them that joy. And I really don't want to be their cautionary tale, but I want them to enjoy where they are, but I also don't want to hear it. Because like, I just really like the people when they first lose the weight or when they're having success, sometimes they can be really awful to the people around them that are still struggling.
How I see it is they're evangelized. And it's like they have to, tell everyone about their experience and this is the way.
Uh-huh.
And I am just like you. There is a balance and they're going to come through it, and they're going to hopefully temper some of that enthusiasm. But yeah, it seems like it's an evangelistic experience almost.
I do remember one time I had to tell my doctor to not put me in a room with those women again because I was going to hurt them. Maybe the perspective that I got from, regaining the weight is that the weight wasn't my pathway to joy. Like the fact that I was thin or I was fat is not who I am and does not control what I can and cannot do. Do you?
Ooh, I just want to take a pause there for a minute. That is super important in my
Yeah.
work, and we talk about the arrival fallacy. So there's this idea that if I get to this number, I'm going to be happy, and that is perpetuated all through social media. And I mean, decades, generations. I mean, I've had 80-year-olds be very angry with me when I wouldn't give them something, specific, phentermine specifically, that they wanted to arrive, at the wedding in a certain dress size.
Mhm.
And that arrival fallacy is detracting from your experience and your ability to feel joy at whatever size you are. Like that's really what I want people to work on, their happiness right now.
And another thing is, like I think about when I was on the negative going back up. There was a number I was trying to hit. I wanted to be in Wonderland because, in that culture, everybody wants to be under 200. Everybody wants to be at Wonderland. And I wonder if I wonder if I would have been happy where I was, which was like in the 250s, which was a huge accomplishment for me. If I would have just calmed down on some of the overexercising and some of the disordered eating and stuff, had I been able to stay there longer. But it was like I was still like, oh, this isn't enough. I need to go further. I need to go further. And like that's a problem. That's a problem because I really the health benefits I still have, by the way, have health benefits even though I've gained my weight back. I'm not diabetic, and my blood pressure is a lot lower than it was, and lots of things. So like don't get me wrong, there were still health benefits to having done the journey. But I do wonder if I would have just said, hey, like this is what's right for me, or this is where I could stay. But I don't think I was probably mature enough at that stage to make that choice. It is what it
Well,
is.
and I can say, or I hear a grief to that about the timing, but I just wanted to clarify, are you saying that you had diabetes before you had bariatric surgery?
I was pre-diabetic,
Okay.
and I'm not pre-diabetic.
Okay, so from that's again music to my ears from
Yeah,
a medical perspective, like you reset the clock by
yeah.
doing it when you did. And so that's something that if you had waited, like there are studies showing comparing bariatric surgery to medicine, and bariatric surgery wins hands down. And it is more effective, stronger impact with this thought of if someone watching is feeling hopeless or stuck in their own journey, is there anything that you'd want them to know?
I have a family member that was kind of in that situation. And, one of the things that I did was to go and look on, there's some directories at Obesity Action Coalition, and there's some other ones. Is it AMBS? Is that right? Are my letters right?
The American Metabolic Bariatric Surgery is one for the surgical side, and
Right.
then ABOM is for the medication side.
Well, what I was going to say is that you can go and find doctors who've gotten additional training. You can go look in databases and find a doctor with additional training. Sometimes that might be a travel. Like where I currently live, I think it's like a 3 hour, 2 to 3 hour travel to go to somebody like that. But, like that's one of the things, that you can look for a doctor that is, going to have had additional training. There are people out there, but it might take a little effort on your part. I would say that would be the first thing. I would say the second thing is to kind of try to find information. Like the OAC is a good example. Obesity Action Coalition is a good example of a place where you can find information that is providing you fair information. Like, right now with all the GLP-1s and all like we were just talking the other day, we saw somebody else famous and we're like, yikes. Like they really just are, everyone's trying to be so thin. And, you know, people are wondering like, well, why aren't you taking a GLP-1? Like, why aren't you thin yet? You know, kind of thing. And it's a lot of pressure. Like, just because you're seeing all these famous people taking stuff, that doesn't mean that that would work for you. It doesn't mean that that's part of your journey. They probably have their own issues that's causing them to over rely, like in the ways that you're seeing it and being it glorified again. And so the thing is that, you know, kind of try to surround yourself with people, and also think about yourself in this regard. If you're in a group of people and they're saying terrible things about how a famous person looks, or they're saying Taylor Swift is fat or something, like, you know, that always gets me. I'm like, what is she, like a two? Like, you know, like they're but everybody feels the right to comment on it. You know, it's okay for you to say, boy, that makes me uncomfortable, or it's okay for you to say, well, this has been fun, I'm going to go ahead and go. Like, your own mental health, your own sense of hope is control. You have some control over that, which is that you can leave and you can exit the situation. And I think I'm much more willing to do this now in my 50s than I was in my 20s. And so, like, you know, part of that comes with age. I'm just like, I don't have time for this. Like, I'm not doing this no more. And so, you know, the thing is like, you know, if someone is making you feel bad about yourself, if someone is making you feel less than because of your weight or how you look, think about that. Think about what you bring to the table, like, not weight related. Think about, you know, what you contribute to the world, and focus on that, but also focus on surrounding yourself with people that see the light that you bring with you, because that's really important. And by the way, I'm saying this dead honest. I wasn't always good at that in my 20s. I wanted to be popular and cool and wear the clothes that everybody else did, even though it was not working for me. And you may not be at that spot now, but just know that you are always important, and that you always have the right to say, this is what I deserve, and I'm going to go someplace where I find what I deserve, and you do deserve it.